Both the Buffalo Bills and New York Jets are coming off close Week 5 losses here, as the Bills lost on a last-second field goal to the Texans, and the Jets flew over to London and barely lost to the Minnesota Vikings here. They'll face each other in Week 6 in New York, in New Jersey, technically, as the Bills are the only New York team. Ryan and I, we're going to break down this Week 6 matchup here and talk about the matchups within the game, and at the very end of the video, provide our predictions on who we think is going to win this Monday Night Football matchup. But before we get into that, if you have not already, go ahead and subscribe to the Tracy Take and leave a like and a comment. Let us know who you think is going to win and why. We're trying to get to 100 new subscribers for this Week 6 prediction video series, and we've been able to hit that goal over the past couple of weeks thanks to all of our new members. So any help is greatly appreciated. And Ryan, talking about this game here real quick, the Bills, they were without Khalil Shakur, their number one receiver. And they don't really have he was their best receiver, but they have kind of a receiver by committee, so to say. That being said, though, it was very obvious that they didn't have him in their loss here this week. As you mentioned, too, right before we went live, Josh Allen was 9 for 30 in this Week 5 loss. Jets, also, they are without an offensive line as Aaron Rodgers is getting destroyed. And this offense still working out the kinks. I think his connection with him and the receivers something that can be worked on. But at the end of the day, that this offensive line, I think, is something he was just getting hit a bunch going up against this Minnesota Vikings defense. What are some of the key strengths and also weaknesses that you've realized for both these teams through 5 weeks?
Yeah, I think the Jets defense, I know that they're having a lot of offensive struggles, but this Jets defense is still legit. And they're also, like, Hassan Reddick is not with the team at the moment. It doesn't sound like he's going to be this year, though. And so, like, they're still missing some pieces that they wanted to invest in heavily this year, and they're still one of the top units in the league. And, like, especially the secondary, their passing defense is really good. Their rushing defense is slightly above average. I believe you said they were 14th in the league in rushing yards allowed.
And I think some of that, too, they've been behind in some games.
Yeah.
Like, so Week 1 against San Francisco, like, I'll look that up here. But that's going to be pretty skewed. They give 180 yards in Week 1 to San Francisco, so that's kind of skewed.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so then maybe they're still a top 10 rushing defense. They're the number 2 passing defense. And I think especially with a banged up Bills receiving room, I think that's going to play a big role. Also, I look at this Bills rushing attack. If there is a part of this Jets defense to exploit, it is that rushing defense. James Cook, 20 carries, 82 yards for a touchdown. He only had a long of 12, but he's just consistently getting 4 to 6 yards. It feels like every single time. I believe he averaged 4 yards a carry in this game, but he's had more in past games. Josh Allen had 4 carries for 54 yards as well to add on to that. So that's definitely going to boost up the average there. But this is a really good Bills rushing team. And so I think all in all, this Bills rushing game is going to be really important coming into this one. Being healthy is going to be important as well. And I'm not sure on the statistics on the Bills defense. I know after that Ravens game, their rushing statistics, they got to be in the bottom 10 in rushing yards allowed after that game. Because they gave up like 280 yards on the ground in a single game.
They're 25th overall right now in rushing yards allowed. Slightly skewed also, too. If we're being, we apply that to the Jets. So we're apply that to the Bills.
And the Bills team does have a good pass rush, but I could imagine if the Jets do get the ball rolling with Braylon Allen, with Breece Hall, that will help stifle some of this Bills pass rush as well. Just a downhill running game going to make them hesitate in that pass rush. You could build play actions off of that. And then the big thing still that we've seen throughout all the season is Aaron Rodgers on the same page as his wide receivers. The only time it didn't really matter was on that Thursday night game against my Patriots. But even then, it was like Aaron Rodgers was just kind of picking matchups. There wasn't a whole lot of like anticipation and chemistry. It was just Mike Williams is 6'5" and Marcus Jones is 5'8". And I'm going to throw the ball where Mike Williams can catch it type of play. And they were just able to methodically run the ball as well and move the ball down the field. So that's the only time this offense has really looked extremely competent this season. And so I'm curious to see what this matchup looks like between these two division opponents who know each other really well.
Well, if we're going to be honest, it's going to kind of look like to me what last year's Week 1 matchup was like. where Rodgers got hurt. It's not like Zach Wilson, I think, would have. Sorry, the way this offense has kind of been running and just before they've been miscommunication, just errors overall, similar to kind of Zach Wilson offense. Aaron Rodgers is a lot better than Zach Wilson, but in that matchup last year, after Rodgers went down, offense still was getting a lot of pressure, was allowing a lot of pressures, miscommunication kind of with the receivers, kind of as what we've talked about as well, something that Rodgers is still trying to be able to pick up on. Still not really able to run the ball. As of the recording of this video, the only reason why I say this is the Cowboys are playing right now. They have a worse statistical rushing offense than the Jets, but the Jets are 31st overall, averaging just 80 rushing yards a game. In the essence, it's not really that much of an outlier because they only had 36 rushing yards in this past game against the Minnesota Vikings. So I think the Bills' front seven is going to be probably one of the main X factors overall, because I think they're going to provide a lot of pressure on this offensive line, a lot of pressure when it comes to the rushing attack. It's going to put even more pressure on Rodgers and the receivers to be on the same page. So maybe they can exploit a little bit of the injuries that the Bills have experienced in the linebacking room, a little bit of maybe just this Bill secondary that wants to rely on the great pressures from the front seven, which I think that they're going to get a lot from today. So if Rodgers and the offensive line are able to, if the offensive line is able to protect Aaron Rodgers, and Rodgers can take this time this week to really kind of prep with the receivers, not like they haven't, like I'm sure they always do, but to get more on the same page. Also, too, as well, if the receivers could catch the ball, how many drops did they have? I feel like they had a bunch of drops today.
I think if you add in like the miscommunications and the drops together, like that was like 15 of their pass plays. It felt like, felt
like a lot.
Yeah. And so that's me, I think, is the biggest thing is like this Jets offense just isn't on the same page. And granted, they were playing overseas this week. Like it was a lot of travel, a lot of extracurriculars of a normal week. So maybe it wouldn't be as bad if it was a traditional week. But I still, like, you can't have that many miscues and drops and expect to be a competent offense.
Well, it just adds on to the errors from this Jets team, And on the flip side, too, we've talked a lot about the Jets. If we go look at the Bills team as well, if Khalil Shakur is not able to go again, there is a question of kind of how good can this offense really be if they don't really have anybody that Josh Allen can throw to. Going for 9 for 30. Offensively, right now, they've taken a big dip overall on where they ranked on yards per game, 25th overall in passing yards per game. And a lot of that, too, as well, is like Josh Allen's great, but it kind of almost reminds me a little bit of what's going on with Justin Herbert in Los Angeles, is they just young, inexperienced, not that many weapons to throw to.
Yeah.
But that being said, though, too, you still have Dalton Kincaid, at least in Buffalo, but maybe that's a little bit easier to cover. But I think that that's something that they'll figure out. It's still very early on in the season, both teams. So this is going to be an interesting matchup because it's going to be a Jets defense is definitely going to show up. They have to show up. They know every week that there's a lot of pressure on them to show up. And on the flip side, too, Bills have Josh Allen, and they're able to run the ball very effectively, which is going to open things up for the passing game. This is going to be a very fun AFC East matchup here, and a lot riding on the line, too, because your Patriots and the Dolphins are not good. And so an opportunity here for the Jets, who are 2-3, to tie things up with the Bills, who are 3-2. The Bills 3-2. The Bills are 3-2 on the season. So kind of moving over to predictions here. I'll go first. I was kind of going back and forth on who I was wanting to pick here because I think I can see a lot of reasons for both teams to win. I'm going to go with Buffalo just because I feel like we always talk about jet lag going to London. I'm curious on the jet lag coming back, and I think that's going to play a massive factor. On top of that as well, it's offensive line for the Jets. I mean, it's not the reason why Aaron Rodgers got hurt last year against the Bills, ironically, in the same stadium. But Aaron Rodgers, I think, is going to get hurt, unfortunately, just because he keeps taking some shots. And so his offensive line's got to have to pick up because this Bills defensive front is really good, and I think they can absolutely get after Aaron Rodgers and company. So I think that's going to be the biggest X factors. I just don't think Rodgers is going to be able to get the ball rolling as consistently. While Josh Allen is a superstar in this league, if Khalil Shakur comes back, even if Shakur doesn't come back, I think that they'll be able to manufacture a way to put up like 17 points, and I think that's the Jets can put up 17, but I think the Bills can manufacture some more scoring drives. While the Bills defense, I think, can also get after the quarterback. So I'm going to go with the Bills in this one.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Bills also. For similar reasons. I think the Bills running game and playmaking ability with Josh Allen, I think trumps anything that this Jets offense can do right now by a large margin. But I also like looking at this Jets defense. They know kind of how to attack it. And while historically I think the Jets have fared well in these matchups, I just think this is not their year to be like, this is not the Jets' year right now.
Mm-hmm.
On top of all of that, with all of the Jets' miscues on offense, this is not the week to fix it. You mentioned the flight back. It is easier, from what I've heard, coming back than it is going forward in time zones. So
yeah,
that will be something I think to keep an eye on. But you're having a delayed week. Your schedule is going to be thrown off for a second week in a row for practices and whatnot. So I really think that the Bills are going to sneak this one out in the Meadowlands. They would have done it already, or they would have done it last year, but they had the punt return for a touchdown. So
yeah,
that was and Josh Allen made too many mistakes that he's not making this year. So
yeah.
But we're both taking Buffalo. Let's go ahead and wrap this one up here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. It is the best way to help out the channel. While you're down there, go ahead and leave a comment on who you think is going to come out ahead in this AFC East matchup. Will it be the Buffalo Bills? Will it be the New York Jets? And that we'll see you guys next time.